matters. Can you please ensure your mobile phones are off, if you would please? When asking questions, if you could switch on your microphone and switch it off. Otherwise, there is a fire alarm scheduled, a test scheduled from 11 o'clock. So we don't need to evacuate. This session will run for 2 hours. The first hour will be on transport issues. The second hour will be on all other policy matters. There are a number of questions with people's name attached to them. We will go through those first, and you can ask basically one supplementary question. If any member wishes to ask a supplementary associated directly with that question, please stick your hand up at the time we'll try and handle it, because sometimes the debate is helpful. Otherwise, if you haven't got your name down for a question, we'll try and get them in at the end in the balance of the hour. I'd like to welcome Councillor Bateman on screen, who had intended to come, but due to medical reasons asked if he could do this through Teams. And Cecily Booth, who is our new chair of ARAC. Welcome to you both. And I think now, Richard, it's over to you, and you'd like to... Oh, sorry, apologies. Yes, we have.
Yes, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Clements.
Thank you. And I guess we ought to do, has anybody got any declarations of interest on matters that are on the agenda today? Thank you. Richard, did you want to make some comments to start with? I think you did.
No, just to say welcome everyone. Looking forward to the conversation the person's going to have. Just want to reflect on the fantastic progress we've made since May 2024. We're bringing the buses back into public control, and we'll soon have, we're working with the government, the railways will be back into public control too. On transport, we've secured almost £2.5 billion to invest in transport infrastructure over the next 3 years. We're making good progress on designing that programme, working with external experts to ensure that every pound of that to driving growth in the whole region. We're making the first progress for decades in terms of addressing youth unemployment across the region, an issue that's blighted the lives of 2 million of our young people for too long, and including those from marginalised communities that have been overlooked and left behind for too long. And we're currently working on a series of pathfinders with the government so we can specifically address the issues failing our young people in some of the most deprived parts of the region. On housing, I'm really pleased that we've not just delivered 10 times more housing delivered from the CA in the last 12 months than my predecessor did in his last 12 months in office, but we're now starting on the biggest and most ambitious programme of social and affordable housing we've seen in this region for decades. And in particular, as I announced just over a week ago, we've secured additional funding or freedom to use £40 million of the funding, working with the government and working with housing association and other partners. We'll be converting homes that are in the process of being built for other types of affordable housing and private rent into social housing, taking over 1,000 families and almost 4,000 children out of poverty within 18 months. Big progress, more progress than has been made in the previous 8 years. And on growth and prosperity, we recently delivered our West Midlands Growth Plan. It's a plan built with business, led by government for delivery. It demonstrates how we're going to grow our economy, get more people into work and more people into well-paid work. We launched a growth plan in Wolverhampton with a fantastic introduction by Stephen Knight, the Peaky Blinders director, that's brought the whole project and plan to life. We did a launch in Westminster too that went very well. And the support for that growth plan, the recognition of the importance of its content, the first time we've had a plan like this driving the region forward. I'd like to thank the officers, particularly Ed Cox, the left of me, the interim chief exec, for all the work he's done with his team to bring that plan together. But the support from that plan nationally is why next Tuesday, the government are jointly hosting with me a government investment summit here in Birmingham in the West Midlands, which will give us additional chance to promote this region, not just nationally, but internationally. So I want to make that clear. I'm really pleased with the progress. There's lots more to do, but we have frankly made more progress, delivered more outcomes, more housing, supported more young people, delivered more social housing, and have got the plan for growth this region has seen in decades. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. Now I'll move to the first question. Councillor Carol Hyatt. Please, if you could state your question.
Thank you, Chair. Given the expected increase in funding for active travel, which reflects the increasing need for active travel to become more of a priority with affecting behaviour change, please would you consider giving active travel its own directorate like Greater Manchester has, rather than it being one of 12 areas, not all of which are linked, under one directorate as it is now?
Thank you, Carol. And it's a really good point and a very important question and issue. You'll know that I've appointed two travel commissioners, one looking at road safety, Matt MacDonald, and Becky Marston, who is specifically responsible for promoting and advocating for active travel. There is a very good reason why they've got the roles they have and why they're not full-time, is that they are supported by a group of officers here. But the other issue why I haven't set up a discrete team of officers looking at it is that it's really important that active travel and the approach of it is also integrated and aligned with other modes of travel and projects we take in this region. But the other really important region is the majority of the budgets that are spent in this region are spent by our council partners. So the best way for us to work is collaboratively with our council partners on priority schemes and projects. We do not have responsibility for local roads here within the combined authority. So the best way we can support active travel, whether it's through walking or cycling, or changing the use of roads, or particularly safer streets outside our schools, is by working with our council partners. Currently, we're pleased with the progress, but what I will continue to do and commit to doing is reviewing that progress. And if we think it needs more dedicated staff to support delivery, we'll do so. But the key issue that will drive further change and help us make further progress is the work that's going on in communities, and that can only take place respectively and responsibly by working with our council partners.
Thank you. Does that mean then that I can talk about Wolverhampton, our overstretched transport team can expect more funding so that they can increase the size of their team, rather than perhaps the supportive team, and it is a very supportive team at the combined authority, being expanded to give more support?
So the funds that get allocated to local authorities, it really is up to councils to ultimately determine how they want to use the resources and support that work. We are working far more collaboratively with our council partners. We're putting joint teams in place to deliver more quickly. We are working more collaboratively on bigger issues to address some of the problems we've got, and that's why, for example, we're delivering an MDC in Birmingham. But really, it is a point to note. I'll speak to some of the team here about that interaction with our council partners. But we're demonstrating across a whole series of areas about how we need to do things differently to deliver more effectively on the ground. We're reviewing our economic delivery functions, integrating working councils with the team here, with the West Midlands Growth Company. I would support that approach across many fields of priority across the West Midlands, and it is an issue I will discuss with officers. But I also want to be really clear. I respect the role of councils and local democracy, and ultimately the way in which councils use their resources is ultimately up to them, albeit we do work collectively to ensure that the resources available are used to best effect.
Thank you. I'd now like to move on to Councillor Bateman, who's got a question on the Wolverhampton Transport Hub. Bill. Councillor Bateman. In the absence of Councillor Bateman, could I ask Councillor Kay to ask his question, please?
Good morning. And Leslie with an IE, girls call spell it with an EY. I've reworded my question, but it is the same question. And I'm referring to the A45 simply as an example of a problem which I think we have across the whole West Midlands. The A45 is the arterial route between Coventry and Birmingham city centres. And yet, for at least the last 30 years, it has suffered from almost incessant roadworks, modifications to the roadway, to junctions and to bridges. But in none of the business cases in support of any of these projects have they taken account of the damage to the economy from the delays to commuters, to public transport or to the delivery of goods and services. None of the business cases have assessed the damage to farming, to the environment in terms of woodland or wetlands, nor to the carbon footprint of the project. The manufacture of 1 tonne of cement creates 1 tonne of fossil fuel emissions, and then there is the emissions from the standing traffic, as well as the enormous diesel engines which power the construction plant. Do you agree with me that the scope of business cases need to be expanded so that the decision makers on these projects can be in possession of all of the relevant facts? Thank you.
Thank you for that the point you wish to make. There's rather a lot to agree with there in terms of the detail, but what I would say is that business cases are fabric to the decisions we make around our priorities, and I can't really comment on decisions that have been made over the last 30 years, and neither would I want to. But the big investments we make, the priorities we set out, are based on robust business cases and approval and sign off on those cases by the board here now at the combined authority. I fully appreciate and recognise that when we invest in major infrastructure, it has an impact, and often a negative impact whilst that work is being carried out. But we must continue to be brave and bold of our investment in infrastructure, in homes, and the creation of employment land, because we need to deliver growth and prosperity for this region if we're going to make this region the place I want it to be, a place of opportunity where people can get a job, get a skill, and build a career here, and also a place where businesses believe and know they can succeed. If we hadn't built the motorways, the road network, or the Victorians hadn't built the railway, our economy would be a different place. We must continue to invest in our infrastructure to drive that growth. But we need to do it responsibly, and we need to do it sustainably. And that's really fabric to our agenda. And that's the way which we will deploy our resources across this region to drive that effect. And that's why the investment in public transport, in our railways, in our metro, and bringing the buses back into public control is so critical. Only by doing that can we get more people off the roads, get more people on public transport, and make this region a region where it's easy to get from A to B in a good time and in a way that protects and enhances the environment.
Well, thank you for your widespread agreement with the points I was making, and I hope that it can be taken away and given further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for that. If I could now move to Councillor Bateman, who I believe is back on the screen behind.
Panic over, I hope. Wolverhampton Transport Hub. This has received significant investment, reportedly 150 million, but key elements remain incomplete, such as the refurbishment of the stairway connecting the high level and low level station areas. How will you ensure that the final phases of the hub are delivered in full, particularly the pedestrian connectivity improvements that were promised and are essential for access to hotels, student accommodation, wider city integration?
Thank you very much for that, Phil, and it was very nice to see you, albeit on screen, and I hope you're doing well. I've been made aware of this project and the challenges we've got, and I'm in regular contact with the City Council at Wolverhampton and other key partners to this project, Network Rail. I have been in correspondence with the parties to ensure that the projects plans that are committed to and where budget's been available are completed as soon as possible. Those conversations are ongoing, and very soon I hope to have a timetable and a delivery plan I can share with everyone. We are currently dependent on the commitments and goodwill and partnership working of a number of external partners, including West Midlands Trains and Network Rail. And we are discussing, not just with Network Rail, but also with HS2 and with the government about what we need to do to ensure, particularly those bodies that are responsible for major land in the region, adjacent to and within stations, work far more collectively and collaboratively with us because of the impact that their work has and the pace their work has on the people in the region and a wider economy. So what I would say, Phil, is that before the next meeting, I will ensure that we get an update to everyone sitting around the table today on the progress we're making, but also the plan that we're going to get with our partner to deliver the improvements that you've outlined and deliver the impact that we all need from that development at Wolverhampton.
Thank you.
You don't have a supplementary, Councillor Bateman?
I think that's been a really reasonable answer, and I think people who are listening to this will understand it's, whilst it seems simple, it's a much more difficult problem to overcome, but we do need the Mayor's push on this without no shadow of a doubt.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hyatt, could you ask your question on cycling, please?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Given the West Midlands rich cycling heritage and the previously commissioned business case for a velodrome under the former Mayor, what steps are being taken, or are there any steps being taken to revisit and potentially deliver a community-focused indoor velodrome that supports both grassroots cycling and the wider active travel ambitions across the region?
Thank you, Councillor Hyatt. So I have been briefed on this issue and I get lobbied on it a lot. Under my predecessor, who may or may not have made commitments about a velodrome. If he did, there wasn't any money behind it, as you'll know. But I do understand the business case was developed, and I understand that business case was pretty clear that there wasn't a case for a standalone velodrome. But I'll also emphasise something else for everyone. Taking out business cases without the certainty or prospect of having the funding or capital funding and revenue to support them is equally unwise in my view, and it leads to raising expectations unnecessarily and irresponsibly. So the position currently is that the business case for a standalone velodrome doesn't meet the requirements and wouldn't demonstrate that it would be value for money. But there is also a very clear issue about funding. I've been very, very clear that if a cycling body or other support can be found privately or otherwise to support the velodrome, I will work with partners as much as I can. But currently that business case is we are using the active travel budgets around the region to improve access to roads and to make cycling more safe, but also in supporting, encouraging other aspects of active travel, and particularly walking and making it easier for pedestrians. Our responsibility regarding active travel is for the wider region and to encourage as many people to lead lives that are as active as possible. And I'll be very, very clear, within the budget we have, there isn't funding for it. There wouldn't be the support at board for it. And currently there isn't a business case that would clearly support it either.
Just to say a massive thank you for the clarity of the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question now. We're getting lots of houses are going to be built in the Greenbelt rural areas. Those are currently not well provided with bus services, but there are subsidised bus services. My council, and I suspect other councils, are going to collect Section 106 payments from developers to enhance the bus services. Currently, that appears to be to subsidise a year's worth of extra bus services. But if I speak to my residents, what they tell me is they don't use the buses because they don't like buses. They don't use the buses because they don't know when they run. They don't know where they run. They keep changing the timetable and a whole series of other things which are really around how this thing works. So this is a bit of a plea. Could some research be done to actually find out whether what I'm being told anecdotally is actually true, and whether the combined authority could work together with borough councils to actually address the real issues of why people don't use them, rather than just throw money at a year's worth of subsidy? If there is some money, can we actually get it focused on the right things, please? It is the plea.
And a very welcome plea. Thank you very much, Councillor Burrow. So the issue of the bus network across this region and its neglect, irresponsible neglect by the private sector operator, that is frankly losing interest in supporting and recognising the needs of the people of this region and investing in the bus network is the reason why, with support of every member of the board, we are franchising the buses. And we're doing that for a number of reasons, but primarily because, as demonstrated elsewhere, it is the best way of which the people of this region and political leaders and others can help design and frame a bus network that works for everyone. 80% of the people in this region that use public transport use the bus networks, and it's affecting and impacting on the lives of everyone, not just those in rural areas, but I will come back to that point. During, soon after I got elected, I met the Solihull Chamber of Commerce and I talked to them about the big issues they face. And it was, rather interestingly, if not surprisingly, the poor quality of, in that case, the bus route from North Solihull into the town centre where the jobs are. Buses that don't run reliably, a timetable that doesn't recognise the shift patterns and the working hours of the businesses where the jobs are in Solihull, and doesn't support or encourage young people to actively seek work where those jobs are. So we do it, we're franchising the buses with a view to ensuring we improve the network and the timetable. I can't speak specifically about particular parts of Solihull, although I have visited them, about the needs of those folks. But I think if we are going to do what we want to do through franchising, we need to have a better understanding of where latent demand is, why it isn't being used, and how we can try to match the needs of our residents with a future bus network. So we can undertake some of that work. The other issue is, you're absolutely right about using Section 106. Everything we are doing with a transport system, whether it's capital revenue, needs to be framed around the recognition of financial stability and sustainability. And if we're using resources, we've got to be using the way that sustains public transport in the long term. So I will ask, and Ed's next to me, that we will get officers to look at some of that work around some of your communities, and I would suggest we have a separate dialogue with yourselves about some of the specifics there, what we can understand and what we can carry out. But franchising gives us an opportunity to look at this again. At the moment, let's be clear, all of you, National Express, a near monopoly, decide and determine what routes run across this region, and they do it not in the best interest of the people here, but they're in their own narrow self-interest. That will change. It's going to change, and bus franchising will change it. Thank you.
Thank you for that offer to pick up and have a look at it. I mean, it is not just the rural network. I mean, your Labour councillor Hazel Dawkins approached me with a Liberal Democrat councillor after the stewardship we did in Solihull the other day, both saying that the bus timetables change, and you kind of think to yourself, hang on, I order something off Amazon, I get a thing, a text telling me this, then I get another text, then I get another text, then I get another text. When we change bus timetables, I can't understand why people can't register to have text sent to them. There's just loads of stuff that we can do, and that stuff can be piloted in those areas where we got Section 106 money, and then maybe rolled out into the areas where money will have to be found somewhere else. So if we could look at that, I think it could benefit the whole region.
Councillor Rowe, you're correct. I remember when we got franchising approved at board, I did some media with one of the local channels in West Brom where I was that afternoon. We were supposed to get on a bus at a certain time to record it. An hour later, I think, we started that recording. And that was one of the most busiest routes across that part of the Black Country. Unacceptable. It will change. National Express need to do better. Franchising is our route to ensuring bus improvements are made better for the long term for everyone in this region. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could now move on to Councillor Akhtar, who's got another question on bus franchising.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, you are absolutely right. Chair, thank you for that, and thank you for your comments regarding bus network. Mayor, you delight me. So you said very
I'm here to delight you.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's very rare that a politician delivers on his promises, and you are delivering on franchising. What frustrates me, people like, I apologize in advance, people like Councillor Andrew Burrow. I've been here on this committee since 2015, and we know that buses are crucial for our businesses, for our communities, and yet ever since it's been deregulated, the bus network was broken, and everybody know that. Only few of us from the Labour side again and again emphasize that, and yet our colleagues in opposition, today they're singing the songs, but at that time they objected. They never realized that our communities are suffering. And as I said, the buses are crucial to our communities, crucial to our economy. And so for that, I'm grateful that you are delivering on bus franchising. But my worry is that as franchising is progressing, what assurances can you provide that service reliability will not deteriorate during the transition? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Akhtar. I'm very pleased to say that when we've taken the case for franchising to board, which was one of the very first things I took to board, it had the support of every council leader on my board. So I think that support was there. What was missing, Councillor Akhtar, was leadership, clear political leadership with a clear plan around delivery, improving services from a political leader that's not acting in hop with a private sector company that has been underperforming for a very, very long time. Leadership was missing, the support wasn't. In terms of the transition, there was a very, very clear plan which is in place and being developed now to ensure that transition is as smooth as possible. And this doesn't require, it's not just requiring access to an acquisition of stations in the depots, but there's also something to ensure that the service provider continues to provide the best possible service during that period of time. We are monitoring that very, very closely. Services are declining, as you know. The subsidies we're putting into National Express are increasing every year. And we've got to get a grip of that position. I've spoken to officers about it here. I'm pleased with the progress so far. We will continue to monitor it. And if we need to, we'll step in and take appropriate action to remedy any challenges we face. But you are absolutely right. The end game is clear, the goal is set, the landing point is marked out, but we need to make sure that transition is as safe and secure and robust as possible.
So also, Andrea, as you know, that they are coming back into public control next year in February. So I asked that question before to you. I'm going to ask you, sir, again, Andrea. Once again, the reliability is important until February next year of rail, and plus the new trains which we have. Can we make sure that they stay in West Midlands?
Okay, Councillor Akhtar, I'd love to deliver franchising to the timescale you've mentioned, but I think it might take slightly longer than the next year. The year after is when we're hoping for the first phase. But I'll keep you updated on progress. The progress so far is good, and I'm pleased with the progress we're making. In terms of the trains, you will know that the local operator we're back under government control. I'm working with the government to ensure that once Great British Railways are in place, we have, like all mayors, have a greater say in the way in which services run across this region, and indeed the way in which subsidies are used to ensure that services are as good as they can be across the whole region. I'm also very pleased that we've secured major funding from the Midlands Rail Hub, which remains in situ and in place for this part of the West Midlands at least, and that will help us improve railway connectivity, make improvements to the main stations as well as local ones that will encourage more people to use the railways. But being in no doubt, we will continue to retain and invest in the best possible stock to operate the best possible railway system across this part of the region. Thank you.
Thank you. My name was mentioned at the beginning of that question. In 1986, when buses were deregulated, I was living in Farnham in Surrey and working for the oil industry, desperately attempting working a 60-hour week to ensure that oil actually got to every part of the UK. So bus deregulation, bus franchising, nothing to do with me. I'd like to move to Councillor Huxtable, please.
But can I answer that, please? Can I answer that point? What I'm frustrated since 2015, since I've been on this committee, I haven't seen, people from other side vigorously or with tenacity saying to government that our communities are suffering because of bus deregulation. That is my point, that since from 2015 to 25, 10 years, I haven't seen that tenacity and that, vigorously the case was put for franchising by the other side.
And I do not sit on TDOS, and I've only been a councillor for 3.5 years.
But you did today. You did today, talked about franchising.
I think accusing me of things is actually not on. Councillor Huxtable.
And I have every prerogative to correct
Thank you very much, Chair. My question to the Mayor is, you've talked about encouraging people onto the rail network. Here in the West Midlands, we have a very successful and popular park and ride estate, not just for rail, but also for metro, used by thousands of people across the West Midlands every day. The vast majority of our park and ride sites are free to use, as they are in other metropolitan areas. My question is, are there any plans to introduce parking charges at our park and ride estate across the West Midlands in the short to medium term future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huxtable. I want to ensure we have policies and plans that encourage as large a number of people as possible to use public transport, and obviously free parking stations or low cost stations encourages that. I hope that we can continue that in the long term, but we also need to ensure that we're investing in our transport network, and what we're doing is financially sustainable. I've received no advice or recommendations to date that we should introduce parking. It's not something I would like to do. And I want to encourage as many people as possible to use public transport, including our railway service. That's all I can say at this stage. I don't have any other further information or any plans to update them on, or any projections to share.
Thank you. And my supplementary is that, as you know, there are massive housing growth proposals in the West Midlands. So just to pick one at random, the 5,500 homes at Langley Sustainable Urban Extension within the West Midlands, which is adjacent to a railway line. If we were to build a new railway station there to serve that massive housing growth, just as new railway stations are being built, for example, along East-West Rail to support housing growth in other parts of the country, could we look at park and ride locations at new railway stations in order to further encourage people to use the rail network rather than cars to drive into town or city centres? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huxtable. So I just wanted to update you on something that I think is really relevant and timely. So we have secured almost £2.5 billion to invest in our transport infrastructure as part of Chancellor Exchequer's announcements at the spending review. The scale of that funding, the impact and importance of that funding to the people of this region and our communities to drive growth, to support housing development and get people from where they live to where the jobs are is absolutely fabric. And that's why, working with Ed Cox to my left, rather than build on inherited plans about transport priorities, some of them developed over 10 years ago, some in the period between 2015 and the point I was elected, I didn't want to inherit those plans and just take them forward. A lot has changed economically, socially, I dare say politically in the UK since that period of time. And we've got to deliver growth and prosperity for this region. So we've asked Bridget Rosewell, an independent economist, to look at some of our big opportunities around employment land, around housing development in the region, and to give us advice on how some of those plans for prosperity, would be better aligned to our transport planning over the next decade. Bridget's work is in progress, and I expect her recommendations to both recognise and recommend that our transport priorities in the region are not just focused on what we need to deliver growth, prosperity and opportunity for our people, but recommend particular investment that will connect employment land to new housing development to our major conurbations. Bridget has sort of two tasks. One is to look at that initial, the funding we have and how we might deploy it more effectively, but it will also help us identify projects that would normally or typically be funded through national government to meet our priorities. So Bridget's work will be available, I think, is it later?
November.
End of November, the initial findings. And I'll look forward to reading those. I've met her once when we were scoping the work. I don't want to interfere with the objectivity of the work, but once we've got those findings, we can share it with you. And I'd be very, very hopeful, given the scope of the brief, that she'll be looking to best match our transport infrastructure priorities with our growth priorities. That was her brief, that was the plan, and those are the outcomes we're expecting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. If I could move now back to Councillor Bateman. Is he on the screen?
Yes, I am. Hope you can hear me. Yeah. Recognising the vital role that the leisure coach services play here in supporting the West Midlands visitor and nighttime economies, what engagement has WMCA had with the CPT, the Confederation of Passenger Transport, and how is this being factored in regarding the regional transport planning?
Phil, thanks for that question. I'll my hand up and say I've not spent a lot of time with coach operators. Officers here at the Combined Authority meet regularly and have correspondence and a dialogue with a whole range of operators across the transport space, both obviously buses, trains. We operate the metro system here, but also with those who are responsible or there to promote or key stakeholders of taxis and also the coaches. I can't say that I have specifically, but at the same time, I set out to be as accessible as I can. And to my knowledge, no one equally from the CPT has reached out to me to say, Mayor, can you help us? We have an issue that we need to address. But what I would say is the points you've made about connectivity are critical to the success of this region, connectivity to other places, and also to places within this region. And obviously the nighttime economy is fabric to that. And I would be very interested if any of those responsible who work with the CPT have any issues specifically they'd like to discuss that mean we're missing out on an opportunity to attract investment, to attract visitors, or make it easier for their customers, then I'm very, very happy to meet and to speak to them, Phil.
In a supplementary question, I understand the points that you've made. I feel some frustrations because even within my own authority, there appears to be a little blockage in the impact that these leisure service coaches have on our nighttime and economies. For instance, I've seen a report that shows that the economic impact of coach passengers on the West Midlands is about 110 million, not a small sum. Day tourism spend, 95 million. Overnight tourism spend, 60 million. And international inbound international tourism through the region, 20 million. So they're sizable sums of money. And I don't think we as local government are giving them the operators, the mostly independent operators from all over our own country and indeed from abroad. We don't seem to give them the importance they deserve when they can continue to strengthen our nighttime economies, our theatres, our leisure places, and casting them into dark streets at the back of towns just doesn't kind of fit my idea of having an integrated transport policy that deals with all transportation within towns and cities. And I'm looking to you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking for you for the inspiration that starts to crack open the opportunities that are here in our towns and cities for coach and leisure operators who are going about their business day in, day out, year in, year out.
Thanks, Phil. So you made some very, very good points there. I think at a local level, I don't want to step on the toes of local authorities. I would say that no coach operators individually or collectively have approached me about any great frustrations they have currently. But also, I am working very closely with the nighttime economy. Our leaders in the sector, I've set up a task force now to look at some of the issues that sector's facing. And I will, probably the most effective and quickest route to picking up on these issues will be asked for those who are sitting on that group to just engage with representatives, the coach operators you've referred to. If there's anything coming out of that is material or significant, I'll feed it back to you and we'll look at what we can do. But I'd also, if there's a word of reassurance, is that to date, I haven't had any direct correspondence from or dialogue with them, which might not suggest that they're terribly unhappy with things, but it doesn't mean to say that there aren't things we could do to make it easier for them.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde, could you ask your question about alternative fuel technologies, which is a totally different direction now? Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. There's always a need to future-proof our plans. Given the region's evolving approach to alternative fuel technologies, have any lessons been learned from the hydrogen bus pilot, and how will these inform future investment decisions, particularly in balancing infrastructure costs, operator preferences, and the strategic role of electric buses in decarbonising public transport? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. And a very, very good point. And issues around, moving to an economy and a transport system that is not dependent on fossil fuels is really important. I think will be supported by everyone in this room. There are, of course, those out there that would like to assume roles of political leadership would probably disagree with that point, which means there's an even greater responsibility for us in this room to continue to advocate and promote the green transport network and the future of the planet. I just wanted to make a few points in terms of the progress we made across this region, and I will emphasise progress. This is work in progress, not where we're finishing. We've now, we will have by the end of next year, we will have 600 electric buses operating across the West Midlands, including full electrification in Coventry, which is fantastic. Coventry has become an exemplar, and we are rolling out increased deployment of electric buses across Birmingham and the Black Country over the course of the next 2 years. I've got a specific briefing on hydrogen here, which you may be aware of this, but there was a 20 bus trial in Birmingham that highlighted some of the costs associated with hydrogen buses. And now further work's being done to carry out and undertake further appraisal of the impact and the use of it. There was a funding package called Zebra, which was around supporting hydrogen buses. National Express unilaterally decided to withdraw from that project. Thankfully, the good work of officers around the region helped us retain 2/3 of the grant that was to be used for those buses, and we're now using that to reinvest in electric buses across the Sprint network. So whilst National Express, things will be different, and the franchising didn't wish to continue to pursue that project, we convinced the Department of Transport that we could retain that most of the unspent money to reinvest in supporting our electric bus network. And we're also, of course, investing in depot electrification across our depots in advance of franchising. As we progress investment in our transport network and supporting infrastructure, we will continue to do all we can to ensure that our transport system and the parts we're directly responsible for move away from fossil fuels as a priority, and will continue to support the research and development into alternative supplies and storage of energy to support that. And I will update you and all of you in this room as we make further progress with those plans. And to date, I'm pleased with that progress, and I'm hoping as we progress through franchising, we'll be able to achieve a position, state the position at what point every bus in this region will be run through energy that is not driven by or reliant on fossil fuels.
Thank you for that very comprehensive answer. If we could move now on to Councillor Akhtar, who has a second question on passenger incentive programs. Councillor Akhtar.
Mayor, thank you for your support on electric buses, and especially, sir, thank you for your support also for very light rail in Coventry. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. My question is, sir, last year, free bus initiative during the Christmas period, and that was your initiative. saw a noticeable increase in patronage. Given the ongoing cost of living pressures and the success of that scheme, will you commit to repeating or expanding free bus travel initiatives, such as during school holidays or festive period, and how will their impact be measured to inform future transport policy? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Akhtar, and also I'll take this opportunity to applaud Coventry for not just the progress we're making on electrification of buses, but also the fantastic research and development you're leading on very light rail, which has got the attention of national government and governments all over the world. So thank you very much for that. In terms of promoting bus patronage and helping people across this region, families and young people and members of the community that are struggling with issues of cost of living pressures and pressures that prevent them enjoying the benefits of an offer across the region. I just want to bring two particular incentive schemes that we're planning and will be shortly in place. One is one which will allow parents to travel free during that next half term in October, a half term week, and then we're planning the same package of support we delivered last Christmas, in advance of Christmas, where people can travel at no cost in the evenings, and that brought enormous benefits. It increased patronage very significantly, materially, and also delivered enormous benefits to our economy, to our shopping centres and markets across the region. We'll continue with that plan. We will monitor the take-up and we'll reflect on the evidence and the data we capture this time to look at ways we can ensure that not just we continue with those programmes and those incentive schemes where they're relevant, but also look at ways we may well introduce other ones at certain times of the year to address some of the issues you've correctly identified and which are a priority for me. Thank you.
So, can I quickly back? So I would say that this shows and proves that not all the politicians are same. Thank you.
So that gets us to the end of the listed questions, but we have a few more minutes. Please ask a question. Councillor Stanford.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be very parochial as far as Dudley's concerned in this question. I'm all for, and Dudley's all for, any investment we can get. New bus station and the metro coming into Dudley. What is my main concern at the present moment is simply because the two projects being done at the same time is having a devastating effect on the business and the overall running of the town. Speak to shopkeepers, I do regularly, and trade is falling away. And this is simply because of the way running two together. We're now under the threat of work being done to Burntree, which you're probably aware is shared between Dudley and Sandville, which if that takes place at the same time as these projects, then of course what is going to happen is going to be even worse. We can't get definite dates. As recently as a few days ago, we were told that the metro wouldn't be opening this year, it was planned to open last year, etc., etc. And with nothing positive about when projects started, they're going to finish. Yeah.
Depends on the one again. Yeah.
So my question really, Mr. Mayor, is quite a simple one. What help can you give to Dudley during this time? And I'm going to use the word crisis because that's what they're actually going through. Yes, like the signs.
It lasts for an hour.
Give us a phone.
Yes.
Is there anything else, David?
Very quickly, Mr. Mayor. And that is the fact that what else can you give to Dudley during this time of crisis? What we are going through is very serious. Once the traders lose that business, you don't get it back again. And it's just devastating Dudley. And we really do need some help. And the best help we can possibly get, Mr. Mayor, is to have some finishing dates, positive information that we know exactly which way we're going, rather than cancelling or digging up what we've put down in the past.
Ed, just a request from you. Can you speak to the folks around the building and just reduce it by like 10 minutes? Okay. Thank you, Dave. And I really enjoyed just saying I came up to your ward.
I did, I met you there, yes.
Yeah.
You got a good friendship with the butcher.
I did, yeah. And it's a very nice piece of chicken on it. But no, thanks. And thank you for hosting me that day. So look, the issues you raise are of a deep concern to me. I've talked to all the council leaders about that. And the way in which major infrastructure projects in this region are developed and delivered, and the way we engage with key stakeholders needs to improve. I'm not shied away from that. Ed, since he's come in his current role, has been incredibly supportive in terms of the way we approach these things. And there needs to be, for every project that we're carrying out, far more closer work with the key stakeholders on that patch, including councillors and local leaders. And everyone needs to be really transparent about the timescales, about respective responsibilities and the commitments we need to make. And I hear it all the time, even when some of the responsibilities aren't directly reside here around the road network. And frankly, unless every partner working on these major projects is working to the same objectives, the same project plan, and has the same commitment to delivering it, things unravel. It's happened on HS2, it's happened on some railway stations, it's happened on major infrastructure projects, and that needs to change. And the current way of doing it is unacceptable. It causes stress, anxiety, distress. It has enormous financial impact. Often these delays cost us more money, and has enormous impact on the communities, on retailers, on those in hospitality, on footfall. We need to do better, and we will be doing better. And we are looking at ways in which we develop and direct and drive major projects forward in the future very, very differently. And I've been really clear. I want a set of people here that are project enforcers on major projects across the region. We have people whose role is to work with those stakeholders to make sure we're driving those things forward. If we deliver on time into budget, and we take the consideration of the key stakeholders into account more, we will manage expectations better. We can hold people account when they fail in delivery, and I think we can prepare some of those folks for the impacts and then think about the way we can help them mitigate those things. I'll say that because I really want us to work very, very differently with our key partners about these issues, and it takes too long. And behind the work that Bridget Rosewell will be doing, it's not just about an infrastructure plan, the capital plan for the future. We've got to do these things differently too, and that will be the case. I've been up to Central Dudley several times. I've talked to the shopkeepers. I understand the impact it's having on them. I wish I could do more personally. I can't. But what I will commit to is ensuring that the way things are done from now on and the way we do them in the future will be very, very different. And it matters to all of us. And I want to work with the council leaders and all our council partners to ensure that we're working lockstep with them on these projects. And frankly, for some of the contractors involved, when they're failing to deliver on time, there needs to be more jeopardy for them. Yep. The delays often simply result in them getting more money. Yep. Rather, and that's got to change too.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that positive response.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Walters, we are finished the transport section. I've got you down for a question at the end of the next section, if that's okay. I think that was a really interesting answer, particularly with the emphasis on enhancing project management. I'm not sure that's exactly the words that you use, but something along those lines.
I thought you like that.
No,
very seriously. We talked about it in many meetings, Andrew, about that issue. How you do in your role. Thank you.
And I think that is very important. Delivery is as important as strategy, and I think that's a good point. If we can now move on to the growth, housing and skills development part, I'd like to start with Councillor Keppels. Oh, there you are, Councillor Keppels.
Mayor, this question was based originally on page 25 of the Midland Growth Plan. And we talk about pooling multiple budgets for prevention through the region's integrated settlement and giving local partners more flexibility over how they can be spent. And I think it's a good idea, you know, pooling of resources, because over the years on the CA, we've seen considerable officers' time what I can consider wasted on relatively trivial amounts. And by putting them into the delegated budget, it makes a lot more sense to take this out of the system. But my question is now, how big is the regional development settlement and how is it allocated? Sorry, it isn't to the script, but that was my original question.
I'm very happy. These discussions can be as relevant as possible. You need to be free to, ask what you like. I respect it. I'm going to give you the first bit of the answer, and then we're going to bring in Ed, who is the mastermind behind the integrated settlement. And so the agreement we've got with government, I'm in the same position as Greater Manchester, is very, very significant and very, very substantial. Within some key areas of funding for skills, housing, transport, we have far greater flexibility about how we use it, far greater discretion in this region, how we use it. And we are moving to a position where we'll have some certainty over a 3-year period, how we use it. And that will allow us to approach the issues we face in a far more structured way, far more robust way, and a far more insightful way, and allow us to make some big differences. Also be clear that the way in which those resources are used are not, and I might be very pleased with this, at my discretion. They need to get approved at board by all the council leaders, and they are supported in line to some place-based plans that councils themselves are developing with some of those resources. So it is both, I've got a set of strategic priorities for the region, what we need to do to drive prosperity around transport, housing, economic growth and the skills employment agenda. But that, whilst set strategically, is being built up by each of the council areas identifying their priorities and those agendas. And the real benefit is when we bring those together to look at the way we can do things region-wide to make the biggest difference yet to people's lives, the way we can build on best practice, and we've got lots across this region, we need to shout about it more. But it also allow us to start to tackle with some certainty some of the deep-rooted challenges we face and opportunities we've got to make a really, really big difference. And that's the way we are working now, far more structurally, far more strategically to drive growth and prosperity across this region. And that relationship with investors and our council partners is really, really important. And I'll just give you, there's also a mindset to this and a behavioural thing about the way we work together. So I'll give you an example. I won't go into specifics of the companies, but in Warsaw, there's a major defence company that's bidding for a big MOD contract. If it wins that contract, it'll need a new site in Warsaw. We are working really closely with, at this stage, the deputy leader of the council to ensure that Walsall is making available or will help support the availability of land on which a new plant can be used for that work. My job is to connect that local regional business with key stakeholders in the Ministry of Defence so they get the best opportunity to promote what they're doing. I'm not involved in the procurement. I don't make the final decision, but I can promote that business. We can also say that if that business wins that contract and is going to employ several hundred new people at a rate of pay, significantly above the average pay to wear Walsall, I'm really keen in that case that the people getting those jobs are people living, learning and training in Walsall, the Black Country today. So my responsibility in the work here is then aligning what we can provide in the skills agenda to ensure we're matching, working with the council and the business, supporting the skills agenda to ensure those jobs go to the people that need them most, and we arm those people with the tools to get those jobs. These are the things, these are the flexibilities, these are the opportunities that we now got, and we can start to plan ahead with some certainty around it. But Ed's the, I can't say the academic or the theoretician, but the mastermind behind the single settlement. Do you want to say a bit more, perhaps, Ed, about what the opportunities it will provide us and how, I think importantly, how it will work in practice?
Evolved is the word, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I just? Sorry, I've got one. Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you, Mayor, for passing to me. So just to answer one of your very practical questions, how big is the integrated settlement? In this current financial year, it's just short of £400 million. We don't know what it's going to be for the multi-year integrated settlement because we're currently negotiating that with government literally as we speak. There are conversations going on as to what that's going to look like. So we don't know, but we would expect it will be a similar amount on a per annum basis.
So in effect, you're talking, I always look at the combined authority as 10. If we had 10% of the 40, we're talking 40 million apiece, aren't we?
So I think that's the wrong way to think about it, to be frank, because the whole point of the integrated settlement is that we take a more strategic approach to the way in which we are spending the funding. So let me explain how the mechanism is working and is going to continue to work. So historically, the way it's worked is that we would have had 60 or 70 different grants from central government, each one with particular strings attached to it, each one with particular allocation mechanisms, and we would have to have conformed to exactly what government wants us to do for each of those 60 or 70 grants. Now, those grants are brought together within 5 separate pillars around different topics. And what we need to do is to negotiate with government the outcomes that they want to see. So, for example, on the pillar around net zero, just to use that as an example, we have an outcome which is about tackling fuel poverty. And so rather than getting a specific grant to provide energy efficiency measures to a particular type of housing type, what we now say to government is we will deliver this amount of energy efficiency across the whole region. That allows us then to work with each of our local authorities to say, so what would be your priorities in terms of tackling energy efficiency? So rather than having to focus it on specific homes that the government has told us to focus on, we can work with each of your local authorities to say where best to spend that funding. So it allows for a more integrated and joined up approach. From a thematic point of view, each of our themes are now developing a 3-year strategy. It's the first time in the combined authorities history we've been able to take a 3-year approach so that we can really plan and make sure we've got the right resources and innovations in place to make sure we deliver far better than we have been when we've only had 1 year worth of funding. And then the crucial thing is that each local authority is now developing their second iteration of what we call place-based strategies. So each local authority can set out for itself what it believes its main priorities are. And the idea is that we marry those thematic priorities with the place-based, the things that you want to see, whether it's in Dudley or other parts, and we can then have a negotiation with you about how that funding is then applied in your area. So that's the process that we're going through now, and it allows us to be far more strategic. So we can fund the homes that you want to fund in your neighbourhood around retrofit or around transport and so on.
I'll give you just one example to bring it to life, if I could, a recent one. So creative industries, a key part of our growth plan. We're one of the 6 parts of the country that's recognised by the government as being a priority. Stephen Knight, well known to everyone, Peaky Blinders director, once he got agreement with BBC and others that he would be writing the next 2 series, wanted to film it here. It's not been filmed here previously. It's been filmed largely in other bits of the country. I didn't want Stephen, who's key part of our creative industries, wrote the introduction to my growth plan, then saying that he didn't have the support to film a programme about this place, made in this place, somewhere else. The relative cost of doing it here to another part of the region was relatively small. We used some budget that we had from government to do it. We had the flexibility to use that. In the past, the government would have said, you've got to use it for these purposes. That small amount of support that allowed it to be filmed here in the next 2 series will not only provide hundreds of jobs for people across this region. I went on the film set, the film being in Digbeth, there were several hundred people that day, but not the production company, Kudos Night, that are running that production, at the launch of the announcement just 2 weeks ago, said that that production would bring £300 million into this region, massively exceeding by hundreds and hundreds of times the bit of extra support they needed from us. In the past, the way we use government funding would have been prescribed to us. Yeah, that flexibility allows us to do things more flexibly that will make a real difference. And I want to assure you that that production, the actors can come from anywhere, but the people, the majority of people working on that set will be people from this region that are given opportunities to work there. And that's really, really important. And from the whole region. And we're already discussing with Stephen and like Kudos the way in which the stuff being filmed here can also support training opportunities and placements for young people that just need to get a bit of a track record onto their CV's development. These things are possible now. We were in a straitjacket before.
Mr. Shelby isn't too slow and bureaucratic.
Thank you. That ended up, I think, in a very interesting debate around things that were not obvious at the start of the question. Councillor Huxtable.
Thank you very much. On Friday, there's a board paper on the establishment of a Mayoral Development Corporation. What resources, planning powers and other authorities might you be expecting this MDC to require, noting that earlier on in this forum you've said you don't like to step on the toes of local authorities?
Thank you, Councillor Huxtable, and I'm delighted with the agreement I've reached with the leader of the City Council and with national government about an MDC which will cover a number of key development sites in this city. I'm also pleased to announce that, also to say that since we announced that, and indeed it was also announced by the Chancellor of Exchequer in a recent statement pre-announcing some of the great achievements in this region in advance of the investment summit, which we're holding with the government next Tuesday here. So my priority in this city, in this region, is to support major investors, deliver that investment as quickly as possible, give them the support they need to make it as easy as possible, and to ensure we'll best align their plans and the speed at which they work with the speed at which government works. We arrived at this position of an MDC because we spoke to others about the way in which it's transformed and transitioned investment as quickly as possible. But we also did it because we talked to major investors in major sites across this city, whether that's in the Knowledge Quarter, in Digbeth, which I've referred to already, or even at the Sports Quarter, which you'll be aware about is a £2.5 to £3 billion project being sponsored by the owner of Birmingham City Football Club and Knighthead Capital. Each of those investors at various times since I got elected had shared with me and others their deep frustration about the slow pace at which government works, about the bureaucracy of decision-making, approval processes, and importantly, the failure of public sector agencies, which go beyond the boundary of this place of the City Council, to make decisions, or have the decision-making governance arrangements in place that are aligned to the speed at which the commercial world makes decisions. That failure of the public sector to work in a far more agile way inhibits development, locks out investment, and often leads to investors going elsewhere. Our ambition around the MDC is to build on the brilliant progress we've made in this city. I'm just going to demonstrate to you about what happens when you're working in lockstep with partners. It was only last January, one afternoon, actually preparing for one of these sessions, that I got a call from Tom Wagner from New York, who was frustrated that a national politician wasn't going to refer to his sports water project in a speech the following week. And he picked something up in the international press. I spoke to him about his frustration and recognised that we needed some more promotional material from him and all we could get government involved. He subsequently, within 10 days, produced a prospectus for the sports quarter. We had the business secretary here to attend the announcement, and in subsequent months, he met the Chancellor Exchequer at a meeting in number 10 and the Transport Secretary. In 3 months, that project went from being one not on government's radar to being one which was seen as one of the government's most important and strategically important regional development projects. We did that in 3 months. We now want to maintain that momentum. That momentum will be retained and developed and delivered by an MDC. But I want to be really, really clear. Nothing what we're doing isn't achieved and won't be delivered without waiting on the City Council. We'll be working as one team on this with one point of focus: driving investment, speeding up decision making, creating jobs and opportunities for our people. And in conversations with the leader of the council, our respective chief execs, and with the government, there is unified support for this approach, our ability to use CPO powers to speed up development, align funding in a more effective way, and there'll be further announcements very soon, not just on the shape and structure and governance of the MDC, but also the way in which, with the team here at the CA, including Ed to my left, we are going to be working with other national agencies to ensure that the MDC is aligned with significant other funding that will give everyone involved the certainty and assurance they need that this is a project built to succeed and to succeed and deliver as quickly as possible.
Thank you for that. If a change of tack now onto artificial intelligence, Councillor Archer.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Good to see you, Richard. And my question is around growth, and particularly the growth of artificial intelligence and the impact on jobs. But can I preface it first by congratulating you on what you've achieved so far on growth and the development of your growth plan, which is good. So on artificial intelligence, your growth plan illustrates a very positive story for the West Midlands, with 140 AI companies employing 69,500 people, contributing 5.5 billion to the economy. That's all good news. However, recent research by PricewaterhouseCoopers shows that there is a high probability of automation for about 18% of existing UK jobs over the next decade, particularly for entry-level and routine task jobs. The growth plan states the intention is to have 93,000 more people in work. Does this take into account the expected impact of AI and what is being done to understand and, where possible, mitigate the impact on jobs in the West Midlands of the growth of AI?
Thank you very much, and a very important point to raise, and incredibly relevant and important to this region. And thank you for your kind words on the growth plan. I might set the director of travel and the landing points. Some of the officers here were responsible for a lot of the content and the mission and purpose within it. So thank you very much for that. So but we have some major challenges and opportunities in this region. And these two things work, and there's not a politician in the room that wouldn't recognise this. We've got a region, not quite in two halves, far from it, but where we have to remain competitive, attract more highly skilled jobs, and those jobs, attract higher pay. We have to do that to improve productivity, remain competitive as a place to invest, and a place where people with high skills want to work and have opportunities to work. But really importantly, and this is a side of the growth plan that is often neglected in the big conversations, is recognising that there are large numbers, increasing large numbers of people in this region that are locked out of opportunity because they don't have access to the skills, they've not benefited from an education system and suffer other challenges in their life, whether around the places they live, the homes they live in, the quality of those homes, around poverty and other aspects of exclusion. So another really important theme of the growth plan is ensuring that those communities are supported in the right way through the skills system. And there's a massive focus in the growth plan on the everyday economy. The everyday economy, that's in construction, engineering, retail, hospitality, is fabric to this region. And often, for some of the people I've talked about, the best and most accessible route into work. So really, really clear, and I will come back to AI, but I'm dealing with those two issues. And there's not a politician in this room that won't recognise, unless we deal with those issues in the right way, more of our communities will be left behind. And it's the threat to some of those communities that give risk of our democracy rupturing badly in the next few years. None of us in this room, I don't believe, will want to see that happen. It would be detrimental to all of us. Now, so we're facing those two things. We can't be in denial of the challenges of AI, but also the opportunities that exist here. One of the fastest growing companies in the country, let alone this region, as its European headquarters in this city. It's growing at 40% a quarter. It's driving AI. It's recruiting hundreds of people every quarter into that business. We've got hospitals that are using robots to do microsurgery. Yep, it needs new experts, new skills for people beyond the surgeons to drive that. We need to ensure that we're arming the workforce here with the skills they need to get access to those jobs. You don't need to write programs, you need to be able to operate the technology. And that's why we've allocated £10 million to help people across this region understand where to access and use AI in their everyday lives. Because if we do that, we're going to have people better prepared for those skills. We've also got an army of young people that have already built professions and expertise around gaming and other skills that will be well tuned for that. So we need to drive those skills for our workforce, and that's what we're doing to ensure that everyone gets the benefits from those skills. But the world is changing rapidly. But I also want to reassure you all that we're not doing that to the neglect of those other issues we face. And indeed, I spent most of yesterday morning in the Black Country celebrating and launching some big initiatives around construction skills. We're putting 75 million into a programme that will train 12,000 young people over the next 3 years in skills in construction that are not just needed in that sector because of the plans and investment we've got in this region, but will give thousands of young people opportunities and access to skills and well-paid work they wouldn't have had before.
Yes, thanks for that positive answer, Richard. I think you and your team have recognised the issue, and I think it needs to remain on the agenda though, because it is a concern that it could have a potential negative effect as well as all the positive things that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. I think that concentration on the everyday economy as well as the advanced economy is going to be very important. I've yet to see a computer that can crawl through a loft space hauling cable. Councillor Bateman, if you could move on to your question of community cohesion, which actually follows on quite nicely, I think.
Yes, I was thinking that myself. Community cohesion. Have you, Mayor Parker, sought to ensure that the policies and projects have improved community cohesion and inclusivity and addressed the economic inequalities that we have in our region.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. No apologies for what I'm about to say, but I'll kick off to say everything I am doing and I'm committed to is about driving prosperity and opportunity for everyone across this region. And whilst it is my role to promote and advocate for this region and attract those higher paid jobs that will attract and employ a highly skilled workforce, I am giving a lot of attention, people know me well will know this, to exactly those communities that have been overlooked and left behind for too long. And one of the best ways I can support community cohesion and prosperity in those communities is giving those people in those communities the support they need to make the most of their lives. And that's why the focus on young people, on the skills agenda, what we're doing through the youth plan, the Path to Apprenticeship programme, is entirely focused on helping some, particularly the young people in those communities that feel disenfranchised. I've said before today, and I'll repeat it, unless we do that and we give those communities the focus they deserve and the focus they've not had for a long time, there is real risk about the values we have in this country, or mainstream politicians have, the democratic values we have, the sense of community we have, the sense of mutual respect and understanding and tolerance we have will rupture. And that rupturing was not helped by the comments of a very irresponsible senior Conservative politician just over a week ago. And I made comments nationally on the radio and national TV, and I was very explicit in what he said. And in my views, the words he used were unacceptable, disgraceful, and he should apologise, and so should the leader of his party. There is no apology possible or no excuse for what he said and the views he represents and the discrimination that he articulated. I went out to Handsworth last night to spend some time with the local community there. They were deeply upset by those words, what it implied about the place they love, and the fact that those comments didn't reflect the sense of generosity, the community spirit, or the vibrancy of that very diverse community. So, Phil, this issue is uppermost at my mind at the moment, and it's getting a massive amount of my attention. In terms of the work we're doing, I've talked about the skills agenda, the work we want to do supporting our high streets, the work we're doing around housing and the social housing and affordable housing programmes, the work we're doing to drive investment in some of those communities and create jobs and opportunities for people from those communities is really, really important to me. And I'm hoping what we're doing, reforms to the transport system, will also help improve connectivity, will help those people. But I can't resolve, none of us can, those issues ourselves. We need to work together, we need to stand together, and we need to stand up against these challenges together. I'll be talking and meeting with the PCC next week about some of the work he's doing in communities, and I've spoken at many business events over the last few weeks to talk to businesses about the responsibilities they need to take too, to supporting particularly young people from those communities, but also to ensure they're not passive against the threats that we face that could that challenge them and their businesses over the years ahead, particularly through the values they have around supporting young people across this city and this region, and also the work they do reaching in to our most disadvantaged communities. We've all got to work together on this agenda. I'm doing the best I can through what I say, the way we're deploying resources, and the priorities that I'm developing. But there is a responsibility on everyone in this room to stand up for our values, to stand up for our communities, and not let divisive language separate us from the values we represent, and also do damage to the people that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to hear everything that you say, and I'm really pleased to hear the strength of your comments in relation to the importance of us all standing together for our communities. You said when you were taking over, that you had the principle of nobody and nowhere should be left behind. I started off with an idea of kind of putting that forward to you. You answered it with your responses to me on this particular question. I just hope that we can achieve in your period of term of office that actual principle of nobody and nowhere being left behind. It is an increasingly competitive world, and it's an increasingly nasty world as well. So all strength to your elbow.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. I just want to reiterate all of our communities matter to me. And just 2 Sundays ago, I spent time with many members of our Jewish community, supporting them after the attacks to the synagogue in Manchester. And I just want to reiterate for everyone in this room, every community, every part of the West Midlands is important to me, and I will get my full support. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd like to emphasise my support for the thoughts behind Phil's question. I happen to be married to somebody who's not a British citizen, who's here on permanent right to remain, and I feel this perhaps a little more personally than maybe some other people. But we can, by working together, actually make this a country to be proud of and get 2 + 2 = 5. Because that's what my objectives are. I've got a question now on spatial development strategy. I'm not sure how this ended up down to me, because I don't think I was the person that raised it, but I do understand what this is about. The government have asked two things to happen. Firstly, that local councils meet very specific given housing targets. And secondly, that development will be consistent with the region's spatial strategy. But the region can't do its spatial strategy instantly. And we've both got 2-year timescale, and they appear in parallel rather than in sequence. I was just wondering how the mayor saw that panning out and how we can actually tie those things together.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for the words you shared, and the values you shared at the end of the last set of issues, and very, very important that we all stand together. So this is a really interesting development around spatial development strategies. We took a paper to board which outlined the way we want to work in this region, and we'll work with council leaders to jointly and collectively. So I think that's really, really important. I'm a mayor that has a very collaborative approach to leadership. I've got really clear priorities, but the only way of delivering them is working with our partners as collectively and collaboratively as possible. And all the leaders are set on my board want the best for their places and the best for this region, as I do. So we're working together on it. And the work that lies ahead, and we're making we're doing some further work very soon, and take some further work at the papers to the board. It's really about working with representatives of our councils, is putting a plan in place that will move us to where we are now, to where we need to get to. That is important. It's important for all of us and all of our communities that we demonstrate to ourselves, each other, to our communities about the investment we want to make in our places, and where we need to build the homes, and also where we need the employment land. Because be in no doubt, unless we support development, make it easy for investors to invest here and create jobs here, we won't be serving our people and our communities as we need to. At the same time, we need to do it in a respectful and responsible way. And that's why the importance of local democracy and working with our council partners is so important to what we're doing. And that is really, really important. On the housing side of things, I've been really clear that with our councils that we've got an abundance of brownfield land in this region that we need to bring into development, and that development itself will transform some of those communities. And we are looking to make the use of current sites that have been allocated for investment, including our 3 investment zones, and looking at the way in which we can use grey belt, particularly in Solihull around Arden Cross, to drive homes and investment of a new health campus. So we've got some very, very clear plans. What we need to signal, and some of these strategies are less about ourselves, by the way, we've got to put them together. It's really about sending a message and a signal to those we want to build here, invest here, and the people that live here, that we have a very clear plan ahead about what we're going to support our communities, but also put conditions in place that will allow them to access the homes they need, but also the jobs that are going to make this place the place I want it to be, the best place to work, get a job, build a career, get a home, and also build a business.
Thank you for that. The answer I hoped for, which is we'll work together. I'd like to move on now to Gavin Lloyd. Gavin, if you could ask your question about equitable investment across the urban and rural areas, please.
Thank you, Chair. First, just Councillor Archer's contribution, just around congratulate you on the growth plan. Just want to acknowledge my full support on that as well. And then just jumping back to Councillor Bateman and the words "no one gets left behind." If we can have that in for this part of the question, it'd be much appreciated now. And how can the combined authority better balance investment between the urban centres and then those more deprived rural areas within the region, along Councillor Bateman's "no one gets left behind" message is key to what I'm looking for on this point.
Okay, I'll do my best to answer it. Look, we've got a complex region, a fantastic region, many communities, a mixture of inner city, suburban, urban, and rural. I'll emphasise every community is important to me, and that really is driven by my commitment, my values about ensuring that everyone has the opportunity that makes themselves, and we make access to opportunity is relevant to as many people as possible. Now, in terms of a lot of that is around connectivity, and ensuring that where we build homes and where we are creating jobs. In Coventry, you know this, Gavin, in the southeast of this region, on the border of Coventry and Warwick District Council, there's one of our big investment zones, which is adjacent to one of the most rural parts of the region. We need to ensure that we're working those communities, we are listening to them and reflecting their needs and priorities. It's a big region. I've got a strategic role. The best way I can work to meet the needs of those people is often working with our local councillors and other political representatives on the ground. That's a great way of working. And also, when we're mapping out our plans for growth and the work that Bridget Rosewell's doing, she is looking about how we ensure we connect as many of our communities as possible. In terms of just a few themes that will come through this about opportunity, moving on to more sort of wider perspective on this, is that we need to ensure when we build those new communities, there is many affordable social homes if possible. We need to ensure those communities got access to public transport that will connect them to where the jobs are in particular. There is then the issue about what we do to help support our communities that truly feel they've been knocked out of opportunity. And that's why the announcement I made in Dudley yesterday about the investment we're making in construction skills over the next 4 years. And whilst I might have made that announcement in the Black Country, that funding will be spread or accessible across the region. We are seeking to provide people the apprenticeships and the skills they need to get jobs in construction industry that has got an ageing workforce and where everyone tells us they can't access the skills they need. We expect and have a plan to create 12,000 apprenticeships, training opportunities for young people in construction. Those opportunities will change those people's lives. We've got an ambitious programme in this region alone around house building, investment in transport, that will help those people secure jobs. So we're doing all we can through those programs. I will say two other things about what we're doing. I've got a youth plan which was targeting 20,000 new opportunities in training placements, apprenticeships for our young people working with businesses. The latest count, I think we have 13,500 of those committed already. Every one of those opportunities is changing someone's life. I'll reiterate, I want to roll out this programme more around the Path to Apprenticeship programme we've got, which is a programme helping young people that have been out of work or training employment for 3 years, giving them access to training opportunity, a guaranteed interview. The first cohort all got apprenticeships. I've said before, I met those young people, everyone on that first cohort. A very large number of them had difficult lives when they were a carer for a sibling or a parent when they were at school. School wasn't the place where they went to learn. They went to school to do things that kids do when they're not at school. And we've made a big difference to those people's lives, and we've changed lives and give them opportunities. And the feedback from that programme is brilliant. We've also got other programmes. I was in Warsaw this week as part of our launch of Get the West Midlands Working campaign, where some of the most deprived communities, focused support working with our council partners and DWP, is giving individual support to some of our young people that have been locked out of opportunity, the ability to get the support they need to be ready and prepared for work. We've seen great progress in places like that for those types of intervention. We'll continue to use those. And over the next few weeks, I'll be working with the skills team here and the officers like Ed and my own team to put some propositions to the new Welfare Secretary, Pat McFadden, who I spent some time with recently, about the ways we can work with DWP, with the health service, to target support for some of those young people that often feel that they're unable or not prepared for work and go on to benefits, and how we can work far more closely with other stakeholders in the system to help get those young people in a place where they think very differently about their futures. We're doing as much as we can in the places that need it most to make the biggest difference possible. Thank you.
Brilliant. Councillor Scott, I believe you have a supplementary, is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. What's the microphone on? I just want to pick up a question around intergenerational unemployment as well. We've spoken a lot about particularly young people being unemployed, and we've got lots of really great schemes for them. What you just said about the Get West Midlands Working scheme, or targeting those people as well. But I'm wondering, what about people where you've got parents, grandparents, who've for decades have had a culture in families and communities of not being worked, jobs haven't been there. How can we support all of those families and all of those people into work?
Thank you, Jamie. And there is a bigger issue as we face that we've got chronic issues in this region of underemployment or people not in employment. I think the regional figure is around 69% of the workforce is employed. The national average is 75%. The government want us to get to 80%. You can't do that by simply focusing on young people. The deindustrialisation that's taken place in this region has damaged large parts of it, and large parts of it haven't recovered since the factories and the steel mills closed. And where I was yesterday is still suffering the Black Country now. So we've got to work a lot harder. I don't have all the budgets to work with those people, but I will be working really closely with the Welfare Secretary and others in government about what we can do. The great getting the part of the Get Britain Working programs and what we're doing in the region is really important to that. We've also got skills programs that are accessible to other people or parents, and we know that some of the issues young people face are often a result of or a consequence of having people around them who haven't worked, or parents indeed that have themselves found it difficult to find work. So we know we've got to approach this in a far more holistic way. But there are some, talking to some of the people here that have got an expert on skills, we also need to address, in my view, some of the fault lines in the way the DWP works. Often for people in work but not working full time, they aren't able to provide them with a sufficiently attractive offer to get them to work full time. An extra £5 a week doesn't do it. There are people here that believe in giving some of those older people or adults access to some more support and training can help them get a job that doesn't pay an extra £5 a week, but £500 a month. Those are the sorts of step changes we want to do. We're playing our role here in sharing insight and knowledge and talking and sharing ideas about the way we can work with other partners to make that step change that we need to make. And as you said, it isn't just about young people, it's multi-generational. And I'll come back to the fact that some of the structural challenges we face in our economy here can only be addressed if we recognise the fact that every demographic needs some focus if we're going to get this region working the way we want it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move on now to Councillor Chowdhury. We've got 2 substantive questions left, and if we've then got any spare time, I'll come back to other councillors. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mayor. What role might the West Midland Combined Authority have in future regarding youth supervision in order to address antisocial behaviour and drug issues?
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Currently, our role is very limited, as you will know, but we are going to, well, mayors through new legislation are going to have a greater say in helping shape health provision, particularly around the region, and that does include support for young people, and particularly with those with addictions and other issues that might impact on antisocial behaviour. I've had meetings this week, the first set of one-to-one meetings with those that help shape the health economy around the region, and we had some really important discussions, and the outline discussions we've had are really about the way in which, with a political voice, and the health service doesn't have a political voice in this region currently, we can build a case for, if you like, redesignating, recalibrating, reallocating some of the resources we've got in this region to address issues like that. I'm not the final arbiter on those things, but I think it's now apparent to everyone, if it wasn't before, that the resources we've got, and of course they are always constrained in some way, if we want to make some of the difference we need to make to people's lives and help build a better future for everyone, we need to think quite radically about the way in which resources are allocated. So we're at a very early stage in this, but I think this issue or issues impacting on young people have come up quite a number of times today, and we need to ensure that lots of our young people that find life difficult don't believe or take a view themselves that they've been written off, when they're young teenagers, or indeed that they've been written off by society too. But we can't let that happen. We can't let this issue get embedded in terms of way of thinking. And my role is to work with other partners to ensure that we're doing as much as we can to support our young people in those communities. And we're doing all we can in terms of employment support and training. But I think we all acknowledge that there is a lot of work to do.
And thank you, Mayor, especially inner cities, because we have a lot of youth who come out of schools and colleges and they have nowhere to go. They just sit on streets and they do all sort of activities. So I hope that you will work hard to bring some initiative into our city.
Thank you, Councillor. And I will say that I'm doing my best. And the programmes like we've got around the construction skills agenda, I'm hoping will be a great route in. We know it's proven. There are sectors where they're very short of jobs, and there's a shortage of skills and an ageing workforce. And many of those sectors are accessible to lots of young people, including those that may not have left school with lots of qualifications. And we need to find a route and offer those people a pathway, that perhaps they haven't had before. Because if we don't give them hope, we'll lose them.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more substantive question, which I'll ask the are actually two questions, but Councillor Huxtable will answer the one that's probably the shortest. And then if you have time, Richard, Councillor Walter, Councillor Uppal and Councillor Alden all had kind of supplementaries if we have the time for that at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. How will your high street programme support the regeneration and revitalisation of town centres? How will the high street funding be prioritised? And will this include smaller neighbourhood centres? Because these smaller neighbourhood centres are always the ones that are constantly forgotten about and, quote, left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huxtable. I'll be brief out of respect for some other questions. I'll probably take too long to answer some of them. So these are early days, but I want to go back to some focus groups around before I got elected about what was most important to people in this region. It was cost of living, it was the health service, it was our high street. So those are really three really important issues. And we know that for lots of people in this city, in this region, what's happened to the high streets, and they find out high streets, how that makes them feel about their place. And it makes them feel exactly as Councillor Huxtable said, like they've been left behind. And the high streets are pivotal to the success of placing communities. So we've put in the first instance a small sum of money available to support some thinking and some ideas, and particularly around some of our markets that can drive footfall to these places. But this is just a first step to starting to get a better insight into some of the challenges that our high streets face. That is the first bit of positioning. We will, I'm hoping, to be able to secure the support of leaders from some of the funds we've got, some larger sums of money that we can invest in our high streets. We haven't developed or decided, we're far from it, of what criteria we might use to do that. But it needs to be objective, and it will be both it has to look at places that have suffered most, but it also needs to look at places where the opportunity is greatest too. But we are in early days here, but there are many high streets, as we all know, that desperately need reimagining, reinventing, and the support they need to make a better success for themselves. Where it's worked well, it's been phenomenal, and there are some great lessons to learn from business improvement districts. And indeed, I spent some time on the Soho Road last night with the Soho Road Business District, and what they've done to that place to bring vibrancy, to drive footfall, is incredibly impressive. And it's now one of the most successful, one of the most vibrant high streets in that part of the city and the West Midlands. So look, there's lots to do, and I look forward to updating you further at board or otherwise on the progress we're making with that programme.
Just a quick supplementary. I'm really pleased you mentioned that, because when I was the cabinet member for regeneration in Birmingham, I helped create the Soho Road Business Improvement District. So that confirmation is really worthwhile and perfect. Thank you.
I've just come to congratulate you. That's all.
That's good.
Thank you for that. If we could be very quick on these, councillors. Councillor Walters.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Richard. Now, my question actually was along the lines of transport, but I can actually amalgamate it with the one we're on now. Now, employment and training. Are bus passes provided to young people? Because what we've got at the moment, all around the West Midlands, are children just showing their phone or showing a fake bus pass and getting on the bus. The drivers are told not to approach them. So basically, you've got the West Midlands Combined Authority, you've got guys that go around the security, what have you. And I actually gave one of those his reference to actually get the job. So I'm dead proud of that. And I do actually communicate with him on this. And it is rather a big issue that the children, because I don't drive, and all I do is get public transport, and that's all you see is young teenagers going on the bus without paying. Is there any concessions or anything that can actually be given for the ones that are actually in need to actually access the bus pass? Thank you.
Yeah, well, there are sort of heavy discounts in for young people, and there are the access to supported bus fares they can get. But it raises another issue, I think, is that it would be good, and I say this to anyone, if you're aware of young people, or any people not paying when they should be, it would be good to know about it. And we've got inspectors and other transport officers around to supervise that and to ensure that people pay. So that would be good. So there are two things to this. I want to ensure that young people are supported where they need it to use public transport, but also there is a responsibility and obligation for everyone to pay what they should do to use public services. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Upall.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. It's a fantastic achievement you have done within a very short period of time since elected. Congratulations on this stuff. My question is basically on skills training and employment. The care industry at the moment is struggling in our region to recruit and retain the staff. So what you can do to ensure us that the course training provider to work alongside the employer, the skill needs with region at desperate need at the stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Upall, and I know you're doing great work as a councillor in Samuel. So thank you for all you're doing to support your local community. So it's a very good point, because like lots of the budgets here, in terms of total skills budget and provision across the region, the amount under our direct control here is fairly small compared to the total, only about 10 or 12%. So even though we've got a brilliant skills team here, and that team's doing brilliantly, in terms of our direct support, we can only turn the notch or two with that money. So it's key about working with partnership. I was very clear when I got elected, the best way I can succeed is having the best partners and stakeholders around me collaborating. And I'm really, really pleased with the work we're doing with our colleges. We've got a fantastic college in Edinburgh. I visited most recently on A-level results day. We are making really good progress on announcing a compact with our colleges, and that compact is designed to do exactly, I think, what you want it to do, to help us ensure that the course is being provided to young people at our colleges are as closely as possible, working with ourselves, matched to the skills or the skill shortages that employers in parts of the region have. That mismatch is currently resulting in, I think, us not using as a skill system every £1,000 of resource we've got in the most effective way. But more importantly, it's letting down our young people. We're obviously training people and finding the skills that they have that aren't necessarily ones that employers want, but we're also failing our employers too, because employers are saying that there's enormous demand for young people, and those young people often haven't got the skills they need, or they've trained for other courses, or we haven't done enough to prepare them for the world of work. That work is going on, and again, I hope very, very soon. I think we're looking at some draft documents currently. We'll have that compact in place, and I'm hoping, well, the plan is not hope, the plan is, we've gone through this for some time, the plan is that will embody and support a more joined up collaborative way of working, and particularly connecting employers and the jobs, the training and the skills that our young people need.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councillor Alden.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Richard, for joining the committee today. Last summer, you launched your youth unemployment plan for West Midlands. When you were elected as Mayor, youth unemployment in the WMCA was 13.3%. It's since gone up by 10% to 14.6% in the latest month's figures. Given this worsening of the position over the year, what lessons have you learned from the first year of the youth unemployment plan? What will you be changing in the plan to reverse this increase in youth unemployment since you came to office?
Thank you, Councillor Oldham. So our young people that we've all said are a priority. My youth plan was about creating 20,000 opportunities that wouldn't otherwise be available. And I'm really, really pleased by working with business partners over the 15 months since we made that announcement. We've had 13,500 of those places committed. We're also making some progress with the way that we use our skills system and working more collaboratively with our colleges. But we need a step change, and I've talked about working with our partners more collaboratively. And I'm really pleased that for some of the young people that you've referred to that are driving some of those numbers, often young people from the poorest backgrounds or poorest communities in this region, or places where previously support for training, access, and the right skills wasn't available. We're making some big changes. So I was particularly pleased that working with the government, we've now got one of our construction training excellence colleges in Dudley in the Black Country, and also, as I said, we've secured 75 million to support the training of 12,000 young people into skills in the construction industry. We need to turn the dial. We can only do it by really focused expenditure and supporting some of those young people, and particularly, as I said already, from those more disadvantaged communities that have previously been excluded from opportunities, and including our inner city communities. But there are some structural problems we need to face together and go beyond my direct remit. The number of young people who are not in work because of issues of ADHD and mental health issues is a major concern. And I need to work, and I will work with government, with our major agencies across this region in a really collaborative way to look at ways in which we can support and work with our young people in those situations so they are in a position where they are prepared for work, they are supported for work, and we're helping them build the resilience and confidence they need to make the most of themselves in work and for the rest of their lives.
Thank you for that. Do you have time for two more? One of them is on disability. As we've not actually mentioned that today, I think that might be appropriate if you've got the time, Richard.
Of course.
Councillor B.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Richard. And can I just say that what an amazing job you've been doing. You really listen and care about people, and the West Midlands is much richer for having you. So as Disability Officer for Birmingham Labour, it would be important that I would emphasise how important it is that we don't leave behind people with disabilities in terms of skills, training, apprenticeships, and also people with mental health and neurodiverse conditions. You obviously already touched upon this, because that's an invisible barrier. So it's really important that we ensure that those people are included as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bushra. Thank you for all your work you're doing for the ward that you serve. So, some very good points there. We've given emphasis to some sort of, to young people and others in a broad way today, but the work we're doing through our youth plan, through supporting young people and members of our community to access opportunity, is really focused about looking at all those barriers that prevent people making the most of themselves, and recognising some of the challenges they face and how we can align their strengths and their possibilities with the opportunities that are available to them. And there is much more to do. We know the figures, we've got the facts, Councillor Alden's just referred to them, but we have got all of us to play the biggest part we can in ensuring that we help our young people and support them, particularly young people, with the support they need to get into the workplace. I was very clear when I got elected, truly in my role, the clearest way I can make the biggest difference to people's lives is help them get access to the skills they need to get well-paid work, and that continues to be my mission and my primary purpose. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And finally, one question from Councillor Barker from Warwickshire, which is a non-constituent member of this, and I'm always very pleased that we have representation from the non-constituent members. Councillor Barker.
Thank you. I'm not sure you're going to necessarily be pleased with the non-constituents question, but you may be aware, Mr. Mayor, that yesterday we had a momentous vote, well, 3 votes, and it went on for 4 hours, at Warwickshire, where we were voting on whether we wanted 1 unitary or 2, and voting on 1. The other vote was that we wanted to join the WMCA. So I'm here today, and I promised Council I would ask, will you please reconsider whether we can join you?
You don't get my applause. No.
So I think
Great.
I've been pretty clear. I'll be pretty clear.
No,
that
we're
the-
left out.
I'll be pretty clear that the job I've got representing the people of the West Midlands is big enough, and the geography and the priorities got very clearly. You're welcome to make to make propositions to government and others, but I think the government also been really clear in the past that they've got no plans to extend mayoral command authorities, but they would like devolution developed across the country. So my advice would be that you develop propositions that you take to Westminster, setting out your case. But I'd also like to reassure you or remind you that irrespective of my personal views on this, that I've made well known before, that any decision would be not be mine alone. And you might have some current difficulty persuading many other people on the board that that should be the right approach. But I support devolution. I want Warwickshire to succeed. It's a very important partner of ours, and I've had a fantastic relationship in the past with the county and with the district councils, particularly around when we want to drive investment and prosperity to improve the lives of people. And none of what I said is counter to my view that good working relationships, good partnership is the best way to deliver success and prosperity for the people we represent. Thank you.
I would say good.
Thank you. Richard, do you have any, Mr. Mayor, do you have any final comments you wish to make?
I could do with a cup of tea.
Thank you very much. One in a month.
Thank you.
Instead of a plastic cup.
Thank you very much for it's been a challenging session, and thank you for your answers. Thank you.